Hello everybody, it's Lady Shatana, and welcome back to another one of my Minecolonies Getting Started videos. This video is how to get started with the new food system. It's a brand new update to the way food works for your colonists in the Minecraft version 1.20.1. And it's fairly new. It's only been out for a couple of weeks maybe, so there may be some changes, who knows, maybe even big ones that happen after this. But today I'm going to talk about what I've figured out and read and learned, and hopefully make the food system less complicated for everybody. So we are here in the new Cookery building. This is the new alternative version of it for my cavern style. This is the Cookery hut block, very nice, and it is where the chef works. The chef used to be the assistant chef down at the restaurant and has now gone and opened their own place. So there is now only the cook down at the restaurant, and we now have the chef up here at the Cookery. Cookery looks like any other hut where they have the various menu options or here that you can take a look at. They've got the crafting recipes. These are all the fancy new recipes that we have that are specific to the cook, so they do know a wide range of things to get started, involving some new items which are Minecolonies specific foods. So let's talk about those. The way that you're going to get all these new crops is you're going to get yourself a hoe, doesn't matter what kind of hoe, and you're going to go out into the world and you're going to break grass and ferns if you happen to be in that kind of a biome, and you are going to get various things out of that grass. My understanding is that you can do it without a hoe, but you're going to reap a lot more items if you are using a hoe. So in any biome, you can locate these four items. Durum wheat is one you're going to use a lot of, so that is one you're going to want to get your farmer farming right away. And then the garlic, onion, and eggplant, so you can find these anywhere. Temperate biomes, which is a large range of where most people do build, will be in temperate biomes. You're also going to find bell peppers and tomatoes. Cold areas will be cabbages, and then you'll find rice and soybeans in hot and humid, which would be things like jungle. And then, of course, hot and dry biomes, so things like the deserts and the mesas and things like that, you'll be able to find chickpeas. So that's where you can find, how you can find all these starter things. It's just like when you're breaking grass to get wheat seeds. Works exactly the same way. You will be able to then ask your farmer to go ahead and grow these, and we will go take a look at that in a little bit. The difference between these crops and the regular vanilla crops is you cannot grow and harvest these yourself. It is something that has to be done by a Minecolonies farmer, so that is something to keep in mind. These are the various foods that are currently in the Minecolonies mod, and they're pretty fun. They range from cooked rice, which of course you'll only be able to make if you are able to obtain rice, various cheeses, things like that, right up to more complicated things like a stew trencher or stuffed pita. As you can see, I have some signage here indicating these are somewhat acceptable foods. So the lower level citizens will take those and they'll be okay with them. They're not going to be, super excited about those foods. And then satisfied foods, they will be, I believe it will help really increase their happiness and things like that. And then when they get up to being more complex citizens, they're going to want these happy for sure ones. So a higher level of food, which of course takes a more complex set of ingredients ingredients in order to make. So this is just an overview of the foods that are available, and we will talk more about these levels when we take a look at the restaurant itself. Some little tips and tricks, things that I've figured out. The butter and the raw noodles are things that the Cookery will use a good, like a lot of them to make the various foods. So I do recommend putting a minimum stock of both of these items into the Cookery and doing a minimum stock of the butter in the bakery, because the bakery will use a lot of these to make the foods as well. So what that will do is that if nothing else has been requested, they will just make these right away and have them on hand, so that when new food is requested, you won't need to wait for these basic items to be made. So I do recommend doing that. Also, making and stocking a minimum of the new large bottles, and the glass bottles will be for honey. If once you get that apiary going, make sure you keep a stock of those, and then the bowls, which you're going to use a lot of in the Cookery itself. Then we've got, so these of course are milk items, which are going to come from the Cowboy. The big difference between these is the regular vanilla milk bucket, they don't stack, whereas the new bottles do. So these are a much more efficient way of keeping the milk supplies that you're going to need to make things like the butter and the cheese and various other things. So that is something to keep in mind, and we'll take a look at the settings for the Cowboy when we get down there. The bakery works very similar to the Cookery that we're going to take a look at, but there are a couple of items that the Cookery will want from the bakery in order to make more complex foods. So they're going to need a lot of the durum wheat, and they're going to need butter to make these particular items. So that might be something that at some point you may want to do a minimum stock for these as well, because then they'll always be on hand to make the more complex foods that you'll get into a bit later. So as I was saying with the minimum stock, this is where you do that, and it's just a simple matter of going in here and finding the item and selecting it. It is by the stack. So doing one there will mean it will have keep a full stack on hand, so it'll make 64 and hold on to them. So you don't have to do this. It's just something that I do recommend in order to make sure that it's a much faster process to get what you need when you need it. So that's a basic overview of all of the various items, a couple of tips, and the Cookery itself. So the new food system utilizes a lot of different craftsmen in order to be the most efficient. So the restaurant itself, of course, is still where all of the citizens are going to go when they are hungry, and the cook is going to give them the food, and they will then go eat it. Same as how it used to be. Just we don't have the assistant cook in here anymore. The foods, we're going to scroll down. So here's all the various regular foods that are available, including anything that is in other mods. As you can see, I do have some Twilight Forest things going on in here. So same as it always has been, you can turn various foods on or off depending on whether you want to, maybe you don't want them being able to take and eat these various things. So you can change all that. And what the difference we have here is we have these other foods that show with the different colors, and these are ones that make them a bit more satisfied. And then when we get up here, we have the gold foods, which are definitely more complex foods and will make your citizens very happy. Now, these will be more requested by your higher level citizens. And when I say higher level, it's when a citizen is actually living in a level 5 house. So you've leveled your residence all the way up to level 5. Your citizens are a bit more posh and fancy because they're living in a much more posh and fancy house. They're going to want the better foods. So you don't, my understanding is at this point you don't have to feed them these things, but they will work better, they will be happier, and overall you're going to have a better, a better overall happiness for your colony. Now that may change, I may be incorrect, it may be that at some point they will have to have one of these foods, or they will not. They will not work properly. If that is the case, I'm sure it will be easy by the time you need it to be able to make these fancy foods. So this is where a minimum stock is really a incredibly smart thing to do. So what you will do is, as you're taking a look through the various recipes, you'll figure out which ones you'll be able to make based on the ingredients that you're going to be able to obtain or grow in your particular biome. And when you figured that out, you then tell the restaurant to stock those particular items. By doing this, they will request a full stack of that particular item. And my understanding is, I believe once they get below, I think, half a stack of these items in their inventory for the restaurant, they will request more. So you'll always have these items on hand. And by doing this, you won't have them requesting just random stuff and maybe requesting things that you don't have all of the ingredients to be able to make. So you're just managing the food better by telling it, okay, I want you to request these different things and keep them on hand because I know I can make them. So you want to request several different things. In this case, we probably want to give them one of the lower items so that they always have that on hand. So we know that this is somewhat acceptable, so let's go ahead and tell them to keep a stack of that on hand. So with this here, I know that there's no cheese in their inventory here right now. So that request has gone out to the the colony as a whole, and we can see that it is the chef is now requesting some milk bottles, and they will then make the cheese and then bring it. And that's how that system works. And this request should have shown up on here because we don't have, I just happen to know we don't have a full stack of large milk bottles in the warehouse right now. So you can either go and help obtain the milk that they're going to need, or you can just wait, maybe go double check on the Cowboy and make sure that they can fulfill that in a quick manner. So we'll take a look at that part of the process in a moment. The bakery, of course, here, same as anything else. They've got the various recipes already that they're able to make. Now, the difference between the new items and what the bakery was able to make before is the items that were in place before tend to be special. So the sweetbread does boost speed and removes poison, and that's something that you probably would want to request the baker to make for when you're out adventuring, and that's something you would request it from a post box or something like that. So the old ones tended to just have extra special effects, and the new stuff is just the food items, which are more delicious. And as you can see, the flatbread here, this is one of the items that I do know that the Cookery uses to make other food items, and so you're going to need a fair amount of the durum wheat in order to do that. And water bottles, which the baker actually does fill water bottles, but that's where, you know, I was saying earlier that you are going to want some of those glass bottles on hand as well. So that is how the baker fits into the whole thing. They still will be able to take things like the raw fish caught by the fishermen and the raw beef and the raw chicken, things like that. The cook will still be able to just cook those. Anything that they receive raw that just needs to go into a furnace and come out as a complete item, they will still do that and give it as a basic non-satisfying food item. So that itself does not change. Moving on to the farmer here, as you can see, Gracelyn is working on the Durham wheat. And that works same as any other crop, where you're going into the field itself and you're selecting the crop you want them to do. Now, my understanding at this time is that they will only show the crops here that they're able to actually grow, which is interesting because I do see that it's showing that they can grow cabbage, which I didn't think that we were in a cold zone. So I'm going to see if I can verify that, but my understanding is that if you see it in this list, they will be able to grow it. Yeah, and as you see, the rice that was in one of those hot biomes is not on this list. So it may be just that this area counts as, because we're in a forest right now, and I guess it counts for the cold item. So that's the farm. Just works the same as it always has, where you can see the fields and work on it that way. Moving on to the, oops, sped up a little too much there. The way the Cowboy is for the milk. All the other herders work the same as they always have, just that Cowboy is this little bit different now. And in their settings is where you can see the milk attempts. I don't know what the maximum might be, but let's bump that up to 12 and see how quickly they're able to fulfill that milk request. And they can actually request try to get stew as well, so you can change that. And here's where you can change the milk item from the milk bottle to the bucket. The vanilla bucket is still something that you're probably going to need periodically for things like cakes, for maybe recruiting citizens or recruiting visitors to become citizens, or if you just want some cake, or if there's a cake in a schematic for one of the huts or something like that. But they do not stack. The milk bottle does stack, so that's why you're going to want to have it set for the milk bottle most of the time. And then sort of keep an eye on this. If you end up where you have, 6 or 7 stacks of milk bottles all sitting in the warehouse, you'll drop this down to maybe like 1 or 2 a day kind of thing. So manage this based on how much you need, and I'm going to try maybe bumping this up to like 36 or something. I don't think they'll do that many, but there we go. We'll see how much we can do. So they got so they didn't actually get any milk so far today. We've just made that change. Now, just to see what happens, we're sitting in creative here. Let's go ahead and we'll grab some bottles and put it in there, and maybe we'll just give it a minute to see. It is nighttime, and oops, I always get that backwards. Set that to daytime, and then we'll see how quickly we get more of those milk bottles into the cookery. So that's that. That is how the Cowboy is going to fit into the whole thing. So at the moment, that's the most basic rundown of how the whole thing is going to work. I hope that it makes it a little less confusing as to how the food works. I know with it being brand new, and the wiki doesn't always give you all the details, but just enough to get the basic idea. Now, one thing you're going to notice is when you do start producing these new foods and getting them into the restaurant is that your people are going to be yelling at you. So they're going to tell you, I haven't had a decent meal. If you're not sure of what I'd like to eat, verify for the appropriate food tiers. So you're going to tell them, I'm working on it, but they're not actually going to go and eat until they get down to, I believe when they get down to 2 shanks. So this courier is almost ready to go eat. But when they get down to that 2 shanks, they will go and they will get the food, and then they're going to be fine. But until then, they're going to keep yelling at you. So you're like, why aren't you eating? Why aren't you eating? Well, it's because they're not actually hungry yet. So you'll probably find that once you get things going, it's going to be probably like a week of in-game time before you find that most of your people are no longer yelling at you.
Good
Whereas Isla here has probably, just based on this, she's probably just eaten fairly recently of one of the new foods, and is happy about her state in life. So now that's actually the other thing. So you should be able to take a look at that, and it doesn't look like the food variety is showing specifically in here. Social. So it might be part of the social factor. I do know that I had people that were fairly sick. I just put in a hospital for that sort of thing. But so it will factor into this here, so it will help bring this up eventually. So that's that. That is kind of an overview of how the whole thing works, what you need to do. And of course, it's going to change. There's, especially when things first come out, there is always going to be updates that are going to be needed. And if there are, the best place to find the information for that is on the Minecolonies Discord, which always has the most up-to-date updates and where you can have any questions that you have answered. So with that, I hope that you are having an absolutely fantastic day and that we see you again very, very soon. Bye-bye.